Oh, oh God. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gabester here. This is the normal healer guide for the Fallen Protectors. As usual, if you want the full guide or any of the other videos for this fight, you can click on the annotations on screen. So let's get started. Now, as a healer, there are a lot of different abilities on this fight, but I'll just cover the ones that are most important to consider. First would be the things that are going to need your attention outside of desperate measure phases. So if you're not aware, the bosses enter desperate measure phases when they hit 66 or 33% health, respectively. However, when they're not doing a desperate measures attack, they all have their basic abilities. So as a healer, the most important one to consider at all times, in my opinion, is from Tenderheart, and this is Shadow Word Bane. This is a dot debuff that's cast on 2 random raid members pretty frequently, and it lasts 18 seconds. It deals 100,000 damage per 3-second tick, but it can be dispelled. However, if it ticks one time, it will jump to a new target, and if it ticks a second time, it will jump to a third target. So each cast of it can, in theory, apply to 6 different targets in total, which would be, of course, 600,000 damage every 3 seconds. So the best thing you can do is to make sure you're well aware of when this is cast on raid members and dispel it rapidly before it actually gets a chance to tick. If you dispel the initial 2 applications right away, it will not jump to anyone else, and it won't do any damage at all. So you work with at least one other healer to figure out a system to do that and get rid of it quickly. The second heavy damage ability, just the basic ability, is from Softfoot, the rogue, and he will cast Garrote on random players. This is just a physical dot that does moderate damage every 2 seconds, but the problem is you can't really get rid of it until Softfoot pushes into desperate measures. This will generally be delayed for a while if your raid is using the strategy that I outlined in my other videos. So, just again, make sure you're aware of when this dot is on a raid member using your grid or other unit frames, and keep them topped off in case they get hit by another random source of damage. Now for Rook Stonetoe's desperate measures, when he hits 66 and 33, he will spawn 3 new adds, and the main thing to worry about as a healer is the Embodied Sorrow. This will use an ability called Inferno Strike on a random target, which does 1.2 million fire damage to all targets within 8 yards, and this damage is split. So if only 1 or 2 people are in the area that's targeted, that's going to be a huge amount of damage. So the best thing you can do is to be aware of either raid cooldowns that can be used when this is active, have your DPS kill it off quickly, if possible, or just make sure everyone's grouped up so that if any individual is targeted, it's split up evenly. It's not too much to worry about. Now, when Sun goes into desperate measures, as you see here, she will start channeling Dark Meditation, which is a massive AE that hits everything in the room. However, she'll also create a bubble in the center where damage is reduced by 35%. This is probably the best time for big healing or raid cooldowns because it's just unavoidable damage to everyone. So make sure you're in the center where you're getting that damage reduction, and then you can chain your healer cooldowns on the raid as well as your efficient AE heals where needed. The final and most dangerous thing to worry about as a healer is when Softfoot enters desperate measures. He will despawn, and instead an embodied anguish will appear, which is just an ad that fixates on a random raid member. Now, during this fixation, they'll get Mark of the Anguish. However, any melee attacks from the anguish that connect with a player will increase shadow damage taken, and this goes up very rapidly. So, the player that is targeted by Mark of the Anguish is going to take a huge amount of damage. However, that player has an extra action button where they can pass it to a new target. So the best thing to do is to have your raid members rotate who is being targeted with the mark every 4 or 5 stacks of the shadowy debuff. That said, as a healer, you should really focus on spamming the current mark target to keep them high health, as well as rotating single damage reduction cooldowns when necessary. So I think that covers everything for the healer guide for normal Fallen Protectors. As usual, good luck, and thank you for watching.